believing that people and humanity are inherently good. And they crave nutritious food in their soul, just as they do in their bodies.
I just kind of cast it as, oh, he's losing his marbles. Had I known, I think I would have handled it better. I think I would have been a much more patient person. I think my father would have felt way less alone.
And being frank, if it were not for women giving me direct feedback in my own personal life and being a man who was willing to at least listen to them, there's no chance that I would be having this conversation. So the message, to answer your question, the message is very simple. As men, we need to embrace all of the parts of us that make us human. That's it.
It is.
It's very simple.
When Marvel Studios dropped the news that Ryan Reynolds was out, it sent shockwaves through not just superhero fans, but the whole entertainment world. In a movie universe where sticking with your top talent is the usual, losing someone like Ryan felt almost impossible. But his sudden exit came after some new info surfaced, what folks are calling receipts. The whole thing blew up when Justin Baldoni, a director caught up in some messy drama with Ryan's wife, Blake Lively, revealed these receipts. And the burning question on everyone's mind was clear. How could one of Hollywood's biggest stars, who's set to lead major Marvel projects, get cut so quickly? Rumors of tension between Ryan and Marvel had been floating around for a minute, but they really started to heat up after a public disaster involving a film Justin directed and co-wrote. At first, people thought the beef was just between Justin and Blake, mainly about creative differences and power struggles. But when Marvel made their announcement, everything changed. It was clear that Ryan's involvement behind the scenes was deeper than anyone realized, deep enough to put his future with Marvel's massive franchise in serious jeopardy. To really get why this all went down, you gotta take it back to where it all started. Justin Baldoni had built a solid reputation for telling emotional stories that really hit home with audiences. So, when he announced he'd be directing a film adaptation of a much-loved book, fans were hyped to see what he'd do with the deep and moving material. Blake Lively, who's known for her charm and grace, landed the lead role. At first glance, it looked like a match made in Hollywood heaven. Justin's heartwarming directing style and Blake's down-to-earth star power had people buzzing with excitement, especially as teasers made the film seem like an inspiring, feel-good project. But trouble started brewing almost immediately. Word from insiders was that Blake wasn't too happy with Justin's role in the film. He wasn't just calling the shots as the director. He was also involved in writing the script and set to play a major character.
I'm honored, and I'm also more honored that because, what we're talking about is so important and so meaningful, that we're able to have this much anticipation and so many people want to go see it and are talking about it. That's what I'm grateful for.
And you had a key part in bringing it to the big screen. How did this all come to be?
Well, in 2019, I read the book. I was sent the book by my book agent and friend at the time. And I was looking for films that could inspire, that were commercially viable, but also could really reach in and touch somebody's heart.
Hollywood's full of creative clashes, but on this set, things seemed to escalate faster than usual. Soon enough, the gossip machine was working overtime, spinning tales that Blake felt like she was being pushed aside and that Justin was taking up way too much space. For people on the outside, it probably seemed like typical behind-the-scenes drama, something that would settle down once filming was over. But it was clear that wasn't the case. A plot twist came when Blake suddenly threw accusations at Justin, claiming he was trying to ruin her reputation. She suggested that he had set up leaks to the media, painting her as difficult, temperamental, or hard to work with. At first, the industry leaned in her direction. After all, it's not uncommon for personal feuds in Hollywood to be fueled by strategic leaks. Blake's accusations hit home for those who believe male directors in Hollywood often have an easier time turning female leads into the villain. Suddenly, social media and the headlines were calling Justin controlling and overshadowing a star just trying to make herself heard. But then, the game changed when Justin's team released text messages. These texts went against Blake's story, revealing that she had been making demands of her own and dropping names of her powerful connections. She referred to them as dragons, a nod to the influential people she could call in if things didn't go her way. The messages hinted that Blake was trying to influence script changes, shape marketing strategies, and even control the way the public saw things. This made people start questioning her earlier claims of being a victim. Instead, it looked like she was pulling some serious strings behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Ryan's involvement stayed up in the air. No one really knew how much he was involved, or if Blake was just throwing his name around without him being in the know. Fans started to wonder if the funny man was just keeping his distance from his wife's professional drama, especially since he hadn't said anything about the whole situation. That all shifted when more evidence came to light. New messages surfaced, showing that Ryan was involved in the efforts to challenge Justin's authority and twist the narrative in Blake's favor. Ryan's public image is built on humor and charm, but these texts painted him less as an innocent bystander and more like a behind-the-scenes partner in this whole strategy. The new info came out piece by piece. Mentions of phone calls with powerful contacts, tips on how to leak negative information about Justin, and even suggestions on how to frame the story to make Blake look like the wronged hero.
I mean, I internalized that as opportunity. We had such a responsibility to this audience to deliver something and to have the opportunity to deliver something for a passionate group of people.
Yes.
As someone who is so deeply passionate myself, I was so excited about that. I would so much rather have that than people who are indifferent.
Blasé.
For a while, the drama focused on the tension between Justin and Blake, keeping Ryan's role in the background. But then Justin hit back with an unexpected move. He revealed he had a fresh batch of undeniable proof, time-stamped messages, and digital evidence too solid to be brushed off as rumors or media spin. From what was leaked about the new evidence, it was clear that Ryan had knowledge of smear tactics aimed at painting Justin as unsympathetic and dismissive, all while shifting the focus to Blake's complaints. When news spread that Justin was ready to make this evidence public, sources say Marvel execs started sweating. Ryan was an important piece in Marvel's big plans, but the idea that he might be involved in shady behind-the-scenes actions had them scrambling for urgent meetings. The entertainment industry has had its fair share of scandals, but this one had a whole different level of intensity. Marvel's all about keeping smooth, drama-free relationships with its top actors, especially the ones who play those fan-favorite characters. Ryan's comedic vibe had become a big part of what made him tick in the franchise. If Marvel kept riding with him after there were signs of shady behavior, particularly stuff that disrespected a respected filmmaker, it could set off a whole lot of heat from fans, other actors, and even future people in the industry. Then came the day that flipped the script. Marvel's big wigs gathered to take a close look at the newly surfaced receipts from Justin. While they weren't dropped for the public to see right away, word was that they painted a bad picture of Ryan's role, proving he had been working closely with Blake to control the press and shape the narrative against Justin. On top of that, word on the street was that the messages didn't just cover the film drama, they hinted at a bigger pattern of using pressure tactics, like how Ryan and Blake might have been using their connections in the industry for their own personal or professional gain. That was the breaking point. In a move nobody saw coming, Marvel decided to cut ties with Ryan, putting an end to a partnership that once looked like it could rake in the big bucks at the box office. Marvel dropped an official statement that was straight to the point, referencing a fresh review of new info and declaring that Ryan's role with the studio just wasn't going to work anymore. Fans were taken aback by how blunt it was. Normally, Marvel's public messages are all about keeping it light or using that corporate speak, but this one hit differently. It was serious and final. It didn't take long for social media to go wild with shock, disbelief, and endless questions. How did a star with such a massive following and a clean comedic reputation end up getting cut loose by the very studio that had always had his back? As fans begged for answers, Justin stayed calm and collected. He didn't take a victory lap or throw any shade at Ryan or Blake. Instead, he dropped more detailed logs to lay out the timeline. He made it clear that his goal wasn't to drag anyone through the mud, but to stand up for his own professional integrity and protect his team.
I just read it because I was looking for movies that could be commercial and speak to the human experience. And
Were you reading romance novels?
And I had never read a romance novel.
Never?
And she said, just trust me, read it. So I read it, and by the end of the book, I couldn't even read the text on the page because I was crying so much. My wife was in bed next to me, and she's, I got snot coming out of my nose.
Justin explained that the messages that came out proved there was a clear effort to undercut him as both a director and a content creator. Justin stuck to the same message he'd been preaching from day one. When there's a disagreement, the right way to handle it is through open communication, not under-the-radar campaigns to trash someone or sway the media. As the situation unfolded, Blake's role started getting even more attention. Her lawyer made a big move, publicly cutting ties with her, claiming they had irreconcilable differences over her version of the events. People started wondering if she had pushed Ryan to step in, or if the two of them had been in on the plan from the jump. Rumors about their marriage ran wild, with some suggesting the public image they'd built was more about controlling how they were seen than genuine unity. No matter what was true, the new receipts made things even more complicated. This wasn't just about Blake wanting more creative input. It was about them putting together a strategy to make Justin look incompetent or difficult, a picture that didn't quite match up with the uncensored text logs. Ryan, who usually claps back with jokes, went unusually quiet. On his social media, he didn't touch the scandal at all. Instead, he kept posting generic or promotional content, nothing to do with Marvel or the mess surrounding the film. Fans noticed this was definitely not like him. Whenever smaller controversies popped off before, Ryan was always quick to handle them, often with a cheeky wink that calmed fans down in no time. But with Marvel's decision to cut him loose now out in the open, going with that same approach would have been a disaster. Sources close to him say he was in full crisis mode, trying to figure out how to fix a public image that had taken a serious hit. Marvel's move sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Studios are always watching each other, especially when it comes to how they handle contract issues with big stars. The fact that a powerhouse like Marvel decided to drop Ryan made it clear that the evidence against him wasn't just flimsy. It was enough to outweigh any potential box office cash he could have brought in. This was a major warning shot to other actors. Having star power doesn't protect you if the allegations threaten the franchise's integrity or image. As the dust started to settle, Hollywood's take on the situation split right down the middle. One side felt like Marvel went too far, saying it was an overreaction. Couldn't they have fixed things with some PR magic or a well-crafted apology? After all, Ryan was a major box office draw. The other side saw Marvel's decision as a long overdue call for accountability. If a big-time star like Ryan had really conspired to twist the narrative about a respected director, that kind of move went against the core values of professionalism. Behind closed doors, some folks in the industry were actually relieved, saying that powerful couples pulling strings had been overlooked for too long. The thinking was that if Disney, the titan of pop culture, was holding Ryan accountable, it could spark bigger changes, putting a stop to the behind-the-scenes manipulation that often happens in other high-profile productions. For Justin, the immediate feeling was one of victory. He made it clear that his goal wasn't to punish anyone, but to expose the shady tactics that were threatening his creative work.
It's believing that people and humanity are inherently good. And they crave nutritious food in their soul, just as they do in their bodies.
Some might see Marvel cutting Ryan as a sad outcome, but others felt it was a necessary move to restore balance and show that accountability matters. Crew members, assistants, camera operators, and others who had seen the tension firsthand quietly expressed a sense of relief. They talked about how certain conflicts had been blown out of proportion into massive issues, only to turn up in gossip columns shortly after. For them, the new receipts confirmed that something more calculated was going on behind the scenes. By this point, Blake had pulled back from the public eye. What had once been a steady stream of social media posts about her family life turned into near silence, sparking even more rumors that she and Ryan were scrambling to control the fallout. People close to her claimed she was deeply hurt by Marvel's decision to part ways with Ryan, seeing it as a personal blow. Some people close to the situation claimed Blake was standing her ground, saying that Justin had twisted the story or exaggerated the facts. But with so much evidence now out in the open, her attempts to paint Justin as the villain started to fall flat. Fans who had rushed to defend her began to change their minds, pointing to the released logs as a reality check that maybe the true story was much more layered than they thought. At the same time, the media was picking apart every aspect of the situation. Talk shows debated whether Ryan could bounce back, or if his comedic brand, once thought untouchable, had taken damage that couldn't be fixed. Movie analysts couldn't help but highlight the irony of Marvel, known for its strong bonds with lead actors, finding itself in the position of cutting ties so publicly. Some hoped Ryan might find a way to spin this into a classic Hollywood comeback story, a narrative everyone loves. Others, with a more skeptical view, felt that the fallout from this break with Marvel might be too deep to repair quickly, especially considering how thoroughly the incident had dominated the news. Behind the scenes, other studios were weighing the risk of aligning with Ryan in the immediate aftermath of all this drama. Countless projects had been in the works, all banking on Ryan's wide appeal. Now, executives were left questioning whether continuing with those plans might drag them into the controversy, especially if more evidence came to light tying him to questionable actions. While a comeback wasn't out of the question, Hollywood is famous for second chances. There was no doubt that a period of careful distancing seemed unavoidable. Industry reporters who'd covered past falls from grace saw clear similarities to other stars who faced fast, dramatic downfalls. The key difference, though, was Ryan's comedic charm. His everyman appeal made it hard for fans to imagine malice behind his sharp humor. But the leaked messages linking him to what critics labeled a smear campaign against a beloved director forced people to rethink that persona, seeing it now as possibly hiding more complicated, behind-the-scenes tactics. As for Justin, he once again tried to steer the focus back to the film itself. Despite all the drama, he kept saying that the core of the adaptation was the emotional depth and timeless themes of the original material. Crew members who stayed by his side admired his resilience. Justin never used the chaos to paint himself as the hero. He stuck to the facts, letting the documents speak for themselves.
And being frank, if it were not for women giving me direct feedback in my own personal life and being, being a man who was willing to at least listen to them, there's no chance that I would be having this conversation. So the message, to answer your question, the message is very simple. As men, we need to embrace all of the parts of us that make us human. That's it.
It is.
It's
And
very simple.
With Marvel's official decision, it was clear those documents had a lot to say. Now, in the larger world of superhero films, the big question is, who's gonna take Ryan's spot? Recasting halfway through a project is always tricky, especially when an actor has become so closely tied to a role. Marvel had big plans for him. Some whispers say those plans stretched far into the future of the franchise. Scrapping or reworking projects can lead to major financial losses, and fans don't exactly love it when casting changes mess with their favorite characters. But continuing with Ryan was clearly not an option anymore. Marvel's sudden decision to part ways with him made it clear that they were putting their stance ahead of money. When trust with an actor is broken that badly, pushing forward with them could lead to even bigger problems down the road. Ironically, despite the drama, Justin's adaptation still kept moving forward, though it was clouded by the press. The more fans found out about the conflict, the more intrigued they became about how the film would turn out. Some doubted, but a few cynics even argued that the controversy could end up boosting the box office. For Justin, though, the real win was staying true to his vision. He refused to twist the film's promotion to focus on Ryan's fallout or Marvel's decision. Instead, he insisted the film should stand on its own, not be a side note in a scandal. The big question now is how Ryan will respond when things calm down. Will he go for a big public apology? Maybe claiming some of the texts were out of context or his role was exaggerated? Will he try to patch things up with Marvel down the line? Or is this break so final that no amount of damage control can fix it? Given how serious Marvel's decision was, the last option seems the most likely. It's rare for Marvel to publicly cut ties with someone. They've always preferred handling controversies behind closed doors. Taking such a firm stance shows that Marvel's internal discussions led to a clear decision. Continuing with Ryan just wasn't an option anymore. On the other hand, Justin has chosen to let the revelations speak for themselves, holding his ground. Rather than celebrating Ryan's exit from Marvel, Justin has shown quiet strength. Though the whole situation was tough, it highlighted just how important honesty and teamwork are in an industry that's all too familiar with behind-the-scenes deals and manipulative PR tactics. Even if Justin never planned for things to spiral to this level, the way he handled the situation set an example, showing that when facing skewed narratives, revealing the full picture can be incredibly powerful. At the core of this drama is a clear lesson. Not even the most humorous public persona is immune to serious accusations backed by solid proof. Ryan's comedic charm once felt untouchable, bridging the gap between mainstream fans and Hollywood bigwigs. But behind all the laughs, there were deeper, more complicated dynamics at play. Watching Ryan's rapid fall from Marvel's favor and the shift from beloved star to sidelined actor has forced the entire industry to reevaluate its views on influence, loyalty, and the fragile illusions that often prop up fame. So for now, the story wraps up with Ryan's sudden departure from a powerhouse studio that had once celebrated him. New stories will probably emerge, with talk of possible legal battles, whispers of secret negotiations, or even a public apology that tries to paint the whole thing as a misunderstanding. But however things play out from here, this chapter serves as a hard-hitting reminder. In today's world, where everything is documented, texts, emails, unfiltered logs, no one can hide from evidence that shatters the carefully crafted public personas. And when a powerhouse like Marvel decides that the revelations are too damaging to ignore, the door can close with an abruptness that leaves no room for return. Thanks for watching my video. Okay, goodbye.